Going live.
I'll tell you when it's live. Okay, we're live. And good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Betty from beautiful Southern California. And I'm so excited to have with us today George Ducas. George, welcome.
Dr. Betty, thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you. We've had some great conversation this morning, and I want to dive right in.
Yes,
And
yes.
so it's so funny because this morning when we first started talking, I said, "Hey, give me your top 3 highlights, your lowlights," and then we started talking about life. And why don't we start at the beginning? Let's start with your childhood because you've had an interesting childhood. Tell us about your childhood.
I mean, everybody's got an interesting childhood, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I guess I kind of learned to be. This kind of maybe points towards something later in our conversation, but first of all, I'm thrilled with just kind of the format of your show. I think it's really cool how you approach things, and learning a little bit off air before we started, just about how you kind of delve into just stuff that's beyond, getting to know people first and their motivations and maybe their missions and kind of what drives them.
Yeah.
And it's great for listeners to hear. It's great for me as a listener to hear. I love hearing about other people and how they came to be where they are and kind of the life's twists and turns. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I took a few twists and turns as a child. My folks. I was born in Galveston, Texas, and it makes me think of the old Glenn Campbell song, Galveston. And then spent sort of the first 5 years of my young life in Texas City, Texas, which is kind of down around towards Houston,
Yep.
In between Houston and Galveston. And then my folks divorced when I was 5, and I moved out to California with my mom.
Yeah, you went to San Diego.
Yeah. So Southern California, just like where you are right now in Long Beach. And I spent all of the elementary school years in Southern California. And I think that's where I kind of I got a little bit of the California musical sort of blood in my veins, whether I wanted to or not. I wasn't really playing guitar yet or anything, but you just sort of, California's a vibe, and you just sort of being out there. I mean, you just get it, And then beginning junior high and high school, I moved back to Texas to live with my dad, because I had gotten so much of the California vibe. I think that had I stayed out there, I might have just been wound up on a beach selling T-shirts. Not that
you would have been a beach bum.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
You would have changed that hat for a surfboard.
Yeah. I mean, although I did take up windsurfing though, like later, and yeah, but not in California. I actually took it up in Texas when I moved back to Texas. So anyway, but I moved back to Houston to live with my dad, and I think it was good for me to have a dad at that point. I was kind of a little rough around the edges when I moved back to Texas, which is part of the reason why I went, and part of the reason why my folks wanted me to go. It's just hard for one parent, especially mom, to raise a son.
How was it for you being raised by your mother? A lot of people that are watching were raised by one parent. I did when I came.
Sure.
When I came to the U.S., I was only raised by my mom. How was that for you as a child?
At the time, I thought it was fine, but I think it's really stressful on the parent.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two sides to that coin. We always, as parents, want to portray to our children that stability and that everything is fine, and provide them, comfort as much as possible. But gosh, if you're just one parent, I mean, you're having to work, you're having to try to be there for them, and it's just impossible, many times to be two places at once.
Yeah.
So I think it was really hard on my mother, quite frankly, to raise both my sister and myself. And just really, it takes two. I mean, ideally, it takes two. It can be done, and it is done all the time.
All the time, yeah.
And I tip my hat to all the single parents out there, mothers and fathers, because it's not an easy job. But but it was fine for me as a child at the time. I mean, I noticed my mom seeing me sometimes kind of overwhelmed or, you know, at times down. But she always, you know, did her best. And that's all really as a parent, that's all you can do. I mean,
Exactly.
nobody gets out of their childhood completely unscathed, you know. Isn't that right? I mean, because
Yep, absolutely.
it's really impossible to be the perfect parent, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So, so
absolutely.
anyway, so yeah,
Well,
from
so,
there,
so let's go to Texas now, and let's get to your high school, and then you were telling us about your high school, and then walk us through your high school life. You moved to Texas, and you're now with your dad,
yeah,
and then you're going into college time.
yeah. So I mean, it was a wonderful period. I mean, a little bit of a difficult transition moving from Southern California to Houston. But I quickly adapted, and that was a great lesson. Again, speaking to maybe you know, some of your larger topics that you like to cover, I believe. Um, I think the ability to adapt in life is key, and
Yes.
that is a key um, to being successful, and is to be able to rewrite your your mission, your plan. And I had to learn that as a kid at age of 12 or 13. I mean, I moved from California back to Texas where I was originally born, but hadn't lived for a number of years. And, you know, all new friends, new school, all of that stuff. And many kids have to do that. I'm not alone, or wasn't alone, but you feel like you're very alone at the time.
Yeah, you do
But
it.
yeah, but it wound up being very good for me. Both my dad's structure, his hard work ethic, um, very, very valuable. Also, a little bit of fear factor there, just because it's, you know, it's a dad, not your
Yeah.
mom. So so that was a really positive thing. Plus, I got indoctrinated sort of into more into the music that wound up beginning to really affect and influence my life. Not to say again, I was exposed to some music out on the West Coast as well. But once I moved to Houston, man, all of a sudden I was thrust into hearing just the records that my parents had around the house, my dad and stepmother, and it was Willie Nelson, you know,
Yeah.
the Outlaws, Willie and Waylon, um, you know, even like I was, you know, kind of heard like the urban cowboy stuff, the Texas blues stuff, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Um, I could go on and on. John Lee Hooker, you know, whatever they were hearing, I was hearing, and I was soaking it up like a sponge, and you know, got my first guitar and just started to really dig in and dive in and started to try to emulate some of what I was hearing as a songwriter, and you know, really learn guitar from what I was listening to, you know, around the house. So that was really instrumental. And then when I went off to college, and which just by chance happened to be in Nashville. It wasn't like I had any
Oh, okay.
I didn't have any grand plan, you know. My mom was a teacher, and my dad was, you know, has a PhD in chemical engineering. So I mean, going to college was always kind of in the plan, you know. Like it wasn't really, they didn't really leave me a choice necessarily. Like that was something that I should go do. Like it was just thought of.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, you gotta go to college, you've gotta put on your pants. It's, yeah.
Well, and that's really where, you know, I think we get into some of the issues of equality or inequality that's on the forefront of today's, you know, today's topics, you know, as a country, as a nation. I mean, I think what is expected, you know, from the family unit becomes, in many cases, can become reality. So
Yes.
parenting again is key. It's critical, you know, and not to say anybody's a perfect parent. Again, nobody gets out of childhood unscathed, right? But just those kind of background understood truths, like getting an education, you know, that comes from your parents
It
first
does.
and foremost. It can't come from the public school system. It's not going to come from your teachers. It's going to come from home. And it was always there for me. So going to college, you know, I went off to college and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Still wrote songs, still played guitar, still hopped up at parties any chance I could. But that wasn't ringing a bell as far as a career goes necessarily until I graduated college, got out into the real world it didn't take 3 to 4 months before I was out playing in bars and waking up early and going to work. And then, you know, before a year was over, I was like, I'm done with that job. I gotta go.
You're done with banking in a New
I
York
gotta,
City. You're done with banking. But I want to tell everybody, you have a degree in economics. So
yeah.
how does someone in economics, and I'm starting to kind of see this story unfold of how you got from economics and banking all the way to music, and how interesting, and something you said early this morning that I want to bring up is keep refining your blueprint. This is going to be something, I'm going to quote you. And it's keep refining your blueprint.
I'm honored, but I'm a little bit scared. No, I thank you for that. Thank you. I don't know. Gift of gab. My dad always said I had the gift of gab.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. You have a lot of quotable quotes. And so keep refining your blueprint, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of them. And isn't it interesting, though, that you moved from California to Texas and your life completely twisted, and how life can just take turns like that. And then it's not a matter of does life take you, or it's how you react to these changes. And then what do you do with the changes? Because here you are, I mean, geez, a music star, and going to Texas and listening to the music and being in the environment, and then the expectations of your parents. Of course you're going to go to college. It's not,
right.
Are you going? It's of course you're going to go to college. So all of these things that form the future of a child, right? And it's
Right.
those principles and those core values that you're taught when you're little.
Right. Very much.
Let me go to the values conversation.
And then some people just get there anyway. And
Yeah.
those are the amazing ones.
Yeah.
Not, you know, those are the incredible people to me, the fascinating people that I want to hear about, because there's nothing amazing about what I did as a kid. Like, I mean, I just kind of followed the sort of path almost of least resistance in many ways. I mean, I learned my lessons and hopefully got some values instilled in me, but man, those people that kind of just rise up out of nowhere against all odds, that's what's fascinating to me. Like, anyway, but I'm sorry, I interrupted you. So
no, that's we can interrupt each other all you want. That's okay. We're just having a conversation here. So, George, when you think about what's most important to you, when you think about the values that you were raised with and the values that you hold near and dear to you today. I know you said, you know, where everything in life can change over time is something else that you said earlier. And it does, it changes. And, you know, your focus in life may change and all of that. But the way you live your life, like your core, the core inside of you, tends to kind of stay the same. Like, so what would those core higher values are for you?
Well, I touched on a couple early on. I don't know if these are values, but just sort of
Maybe your principles or what you live by, your code.
I learned the hard work ethic certainly from my dad. Is I can't say that I always adhere to it though. You know, like, I mean, I'm a procrastinator by nature, you know, quite honestly. But I've gotten better, a little bit better with that, but I still a huge control freak. So I'll tend to knock down the easiest things first, but the big ones kind of get put on the back burner, and while I kind of let them simmer, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a form of procrastination. But hard work, I am constantly doing something. You know, some people think that's just OCD or ADD, and they may very well be right in my case, but I have been accused. But I am always busy doing something, you know, that I believe to be sort of forwarding some kind of mission, professional or personal or just domestic, like whatever. But I like being busy at things, you know, little projects and tasks, and so and I think I learned that from my dad. You know, my dad's an extremely intelligent man, and also a constant, you know, tinkerer. I mean, he's always at it with something, you know. And so I kind of got that from him. With my mother, I don't know if it's a value, um, but I definitely got creativity from her. She's a poet. Um, she's also a teacher and a good listener. People loved that about her. She passed away 2 years ago, but
Sorry to hear that.
but she was, oh well, it was rather sort of expected, but thank you. But yeah, she was such a good listener, and she was loved because people just came to her and could confide in her, and they would open up to her in ways that they just couldn't even explain. They just loved her. And so I think I maybe got some of that stuff from her, certainly the creativity. I mean, I can look back on her poems. She's truly a poet. Like I look at myself more as just like, I mean, she really had some creativity to her. I don't look at myself as a poet. I look at myself as maybe an observer and an editor. And I can spin a song, but man, writing a book, I would have no idea. Like if it's not set to music, I would have no clue how to do it. You know, music is kind of my template to get things said. But she had some real creativity, and I know whatever I have of that, it came from her. So again, I don't know if that's a value, but as far as ethics and values, you know, I'd have to say the work ethic came from my dad first and foremost. Other values are just trying to be a good human, you know, and I think that also probably comes from my mother.
What does that mean? What does that mean, being a good human?
Well, none of us are going to always succeed at this, but trying to do the right thing and do right by people.
Yeah.
And you know, we're never infallible. I mean, and no one is, and recognizing that too. So
yeah,
don't expect too much out of people, because none of us are perfect, right? So
no.
I don't mean to discount people either. They can achieve great things, but and be incredible examples to humanity. But none of us are infallible. So like, I believe that I got some of that interpersonal sort of communication, and that effort to be, for instance, my mother being a great listener. Part of that's a big part of being a good person, is being there for other people. Odd that you don't really do. It's being present. Odd that you don't really.
Being 100% here and not multitasking when, I mean.
Right, which I'm guilty of, which I'm totally guilty of in my personal life. I mean, I admit it. It's very frustrating for people in my family, like at times, because I'm doing a million things. So I'm not always adhering to that, but that is a core value for sure. And I recognize the importance of it. And I think I do because my mother was so good at it. So, so that's a value instilled by my parents as well.
So tell us about entering into music. Tell us about the first year, because in your first year, I mean, you already had success in your first year right after you started in music. So tell us about that. What was it like for you?
No, well, I was already, you know, you want everything when you're 20, 21, 22, whatever. You want everything to happen and believe it should have already happened like yesterday or last year. So, I mean, I did move, you know, back to Nashville after kind of quitting my real world job in short order. I hadn't been working at that for even a year, or maybe right around the date of like the 1-year anniversary of my job. I had quit it and packed up my truck and moved back to Nashville, where I'd gone to school, and rolled up my sleeves as a songwriter with aspirations towards making my own music, you know, and I was inspired by all kinds of stuff, Willie, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the Texas guys at the time. Jerry Jeff Walker was one that I loved as a kid in high school. All my buddies, older brothers, would listen to those records, and that was influential. And as well as stuff that I listened to in college, everything from sort of the rock blues stuff like Stevie Ray Vaughan, one of my favorite guitar players, certainly of all time. Just loved that stuff, and stuff that was going on the West Coast. What Dwight Yoakam was doing with Pete Anderson, and that made me kind of almost revisit history, like what was Dwight listening to? And it was of course Buck Owens, and that I discovered much of or rediscovered in some cases, but mostly just discovered for the first time a lot of the Buck stuff, because I didn't hear that stuff much growing up, except for Hee Haw, which doesn't really count in my opinion in terms of Buck's true musical genius, and what you really grasp onto, what he did musically, and he and Don Rich as a team. And then even elsewhere in the California country scene, Merle Haggard, of course, a big part of that.
Yeah.
Wynn Stewart, all those guys. I went back and researched all that as I was writing songs and learning. And so that was kind of my first year, and I was real fortunate to meet a fellow Texas songwriter, Radney Foster, and we wrote a song that was very much in the vein of Buck Owens, called "Just Call Me Lonesome," which became a big top 10 hit for Radney as a solo artist at the time. And Radney kind of took me under his wing early on, and in those first couple of years, and kind of would listen to my songs and provide me some kind of editor, publisher direction in some forms and fashions, and we became friends. And he was kind of that uncle, 10, 12 years my senior, whatever, big brother that I never had, uncle that I never had. So I really looked up to him, and he was really helpful in kind of not only in recording that song, which became a hit. It was the first song of my own that I had a part in, that I heard on the radio, but also kind of helped, helped get me that helped fast track a publishing deal, which kind of helped nudge a record deal, to get down the line. And so a lot of things did happen very quickly, but at the time when you're barely in your 20s, you're just wanting it now, And I was out there, all I was doing was writing songs almost every day, and
wow.
And I would play in a bar at night.
What was it like for you the first time you heard one of your songs on the radio? Like, you're on the radio, you're listening to the radio, and here's one of your songs. How was that for you?
Super cool. I remember, like, I lived in a basement room on the kind of south side of Nashville, and but pretty centrally located in Nashville. And I lived with like 5 other guys, just guys that I knew or met, or waiters in restaurants and stuff. I mean, just random, 1 or 2 guys I knew from school, from years previous. And it was thrilling. I mean, I had a radio at the time. I actually listened to the radio at the time, which which I don't really do anymore. But it was thrilling. I mean, I remember dancing around my basement room, kind of just with my then, soon to be wife. I don't know, we weren't married yet, but it was a thrilling time, and it kind of provided me some sort of like goal to shoot for, I mean, I was always,
absolutely.
Made me believe that it was achievable,
Yeah, very good. Now, you mentioned you called him your uncle, and in life I always talk about having mentors and champions, and the difference between the two is a mentor will kind of help you mold you in your career, and then a champion will stake their reputation on you. How many of those did you have you had in your career, and how have they helped mold you and helped to get you to where you are today?
Well, I think I had a few early on, and Radney was certainly a mentor. Don don't know that he was necessarily a champion. I don't know how to exactly define that, but I had a couple champions, you know, at least one at my record label at Capitol Records. And the interesting thing was Buck was on Capitol Records. And I look back, you know, Willie Nelson's early recordings when he was hanging around Nashville,
Yeah.
couldn't hardly get arrested at the time, but he was on Capitol Records. So there's just a lot of interesting parallels. But one of my champions was certainly at Capitol, my head of what's called the head of A&R. A&R is a division in every record label. It's a sort of outdated term, but artists and repertoire. That's their sort of the creative arm of a record label. So the head of A&R was truly a champion, and I knew her from, you know, before she was even working at Capitol. I knew her, and we kind of came to Capitol together. And you know, she had gotten interviewed for the job, and she told me, I don't want to take this job unless you sign there. I had already had a record deal offer at Capitol, and was kind of was sitting on it because I wanted to see what else was out there. And I said, well, if you wind up getting a job, I mean, that I'll go there. And so that's what she wanted to hear. And so the next week it was done deal. And so she was certainly a champion. She definitely was my kind of my biggest champion during the course of my first album that came out. And I think is a real reason for whatever, you know, momentum we had early on with Lipstick Promises, which was a big hit and the #1 video on CMT and all that, and the other songs that were Billboard hits as well.
Was Lipstick Promises, was that your first tour in London or the European tour that you made, or tell us your first tour?
I have some interesting old pictures that are, I don't know. I did made a trip to Ireland right around that same time, and I don't know if Lipstick was out before. I think it was maybe out at the same time as that trip. But the Ireland tour was something I did kind of with the industry. The CMA, the Country Music Association, was on a big sort of political push to sort of expand the mission of country music and bring it to the world, you know, to Europe certainly. Yeah. And so I went over there with Marty Stewart, Chris Christopherson, a few names I recall, Dina Carter. You know, there were some other names involved. Even Garth, I think, came, but we didn't see Garth. He sort of recorded his thing some other time or whatever. But so it was a big sort of almost a political gathering. Like, and we wound up playing a couple shows there and a TV show in Ireland, and I think went to the UK as well for some stuff. And I believe that was about the same time as Lipstick Promises. I did go back to not to Ireland, but to England a couple of times. I have been back since then, and just I love tour. I mean, oddly, when my career was kind of maybe sort of on a downhill slope, I went to Brazil and played, which was just fascinating.
Brazil is another amazing place too. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, that was after I was no longer on Capitol Records, and kind of one of those valleys that you're talking about, your highlights and lowlights in life. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I was just kind of writing songs and figuring out my next steps or whatever. But anyway, yeah. So it's the music thing. It's just there's certainly no, like we talked about the word blueprint prior, and there's certainly not a blueprint in this business. You know, that's just,
you know, there's not a blueprint in life. I mean, I love what you said. You keep refining your blueprint. You know, you try to figure it out, and then you set it out, and then things change and something happens. I mean, look at COVID. COVID touched everybody, right? So we had a blueprint, and we were on our way. I mean, you and I talked before we got on the air about, you know, even my life just took a huge turn. And so what do you do with it? So
sure.
Talk about COVID. Let's touch on COVID for a moment. Yep, this is part of COVID.
Sorry, my dog. My dog is going crazy.
It's perfect because your dog came in right as I mentioned COVID, and this is
Yeah,
perfect.
I know, right? That's been a barking dog all year long, right? Um, yeah. So I believe I couldn't hear through the barks very well, but I believe just to recap your questions, kind of how my life has been affected by COVID.
Yeah. How has it been affected?
Well, I put a record out, and everyone's life has been affected differently, and certainly I have had it easy compared to so many. Hey, I'm sorry. And,
It's all right.
and I know we're live. Um, so my life has not been nearly as affected as so many. It's just been really, really scary and devastating, especially back in March, April, where I mean, you didn't know if you could catch it from your
Oh,
own
that was
your,
scary.
your own doorknob, and I mean, it's just your own light switch, and just everybody's just completely freaked. I would get groceries and leave the bags outside the doorstep and
Yeah.
bring them in and wash the packaging. Like it was just nuts, but kind of maybe perhaps overboard a little bit, but not to say we should let our guard down. I'm just saying, I think we're learning more about the disease and
We
the
are.
virus and how it's transferred. But anyway, my life was affected certainly because I had a record come out just in January this year, and we had a tour set up, 15 city tour, which included actually Bakersfield, California, just a show out there, and of course that all that got scrapped. So there's your blueprint out the window, right? But it was to promote the album, and it's an album that I'm really proud of it still, and but it's certainly affected touring, and not that was even important. It's kind of like when September 11th happened. I had a song come out that was recorded by both. It was a duet by Garth Brooks and George Jones. And I thought, man, and I mean, it was being set up to be the biggest song of the year, the biggest duet of the year, like crazy. No question this thing was going to number one. And then September 11th occurred, and all of a sudden the song just wasn't even important anymore to me. That Garth kind of came out with a statement saying, I don't think it was just a fun, upbeat song. Came out with a statement saying he didn't think the song was appropriate for radio at the time, which maybe it wasn't, but maybe people also need a little bit of lightheartedness in that time. Who knows? But anyway, it did well on its own. It wasn't the huge smash that it maybe would have been, but you just sort of don't care about that at that moment. I mean, I was glued to the TV, like wondering what's going to go on.
What's going to happen? Yeah.
Is there going to be another attack somewhere, LA or Dallas or who knows what, Chicago? Anyway, and similarly with COVID, it didn't matter that my tour needed to be sort of postponed or canceled. I mean, we've tried to move as many dates as we could into 2021, but it's certainly affected the touring industry for all artists. Yeah. And I kind of learned to. I think we've sort of learned to adapt. A lot of us. Just focus on what you can control. Yeah. So I've leaned more towards writing songs. And preparing to go make another record, as crazy as that seems, because it seems like I just finished one, but also, kind of connecting with fans in ways that no one's, we hadn't done previously, like the live stream, the advent of the live stream concert. I mean, that's been a pretty cool thing. Like that wasn't a thing before, and now it's a great way to connect and really sort of let friends and followers and fans into your life and your music or whatever you do, into your home and really connect with them.
Yeah, and you get to connect in a more intimate way. It's so funny because I've had so many different people that I've interviewed. I mean, anywhere from music to government, you name it, and how wonderful. I mean, the moment you got on this morning and and just so everybody knows, we've had one other conversation prior to this, and the moment you got on the screen and I'm in your home and you're in my home, all of a sudden there's like an instant connection. And well, let
Right.
alone our core values are so much aligned. And I love the man you are, and I love your core
Oh, wow.
values,
Thank
and I love
you.
your humility and just your
I appreciate that so much,
uh,
Dr. Betty. I find you fascinating. I do. I mean, I had no idea what I was walking into, really. I didn't, I just could, but yeah, it's just kind of clicked, but I appreciate that. I don't really feel necessarily worthy of it.
well, and that's what's beautiful about you is your humility, is the fact that you just show up as you, right? And that's love the hat, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I got it reshaped here recently.
Yeah, it looks great. Looks great. George, I want to talk about something that I know the audience is going to want to hear about, and it's
Yeah.
your love life.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us about your love life. They're going to want to know about it.
Oh, well, here it comes. I mean, so I'm engaged to a beautiful woman. Her name is Justina. Uh, uh, we have two amazing children that are of the canine uh, of the canine variety. Um, they are labradoodles, and they're
Oh my gosh, I love labradoodles.
just incredible, man. I mean, they're just amazing.
Yeah.
They're brother and sister, so they've not spent hardly a day apart their entire lives. They're 3 years old. Um, but Justine and I have been together for a couple of 3 years, and I was previously married, had two great kids. So I'm kind of giving you more than my love life, I guess. But
Oh, that's okay, because you're going right into parenting, which is great. That's exactly what I would have
yeah, well, there
next.
you go.
There
Yeah,
you
no more kids, no more kids for me, for Justina and me. We're not going to go there. But our labradoodles are our children for sure.
Oh
I've
yeah.
I've got two amazing kids. One in college, actually at University of Colorado at Denver, um, and then my son is still in high school here in Nashville. So they are fantastic, as is their mother, who I'm best friends with. Like in
Awesome.
the land of breakups and divorces, ours could not be better. Like it's crazy. We're really close.
What's the secret?
Mm, well, time helps, but,
Yes.
and kids help because you're kind of forced to figure out your stuff. And but I think you mean the secret to what?
No, you got it. What's the secret to having an amicable divorce and continuing in a relationship? A lot of the people, and there's a lot of divorce that's happening, and it's increased since COVID, by the way. The separations have increased since COVID.
Oh, I'm sure.
And what you find is people break apart and they don't think about the kids. They
Right.
think about themselves, and then they point the finger at each other, and they
That's
don't
right.
remember.
And that's the key. That's the key is to try to bite your lip
Yeah.
during those intensely emotional early moments of the breakup, and not say something you can't take back. I mean, once it gets out of your mouth, it's just like
It's too late. Yeah.
be the bigger person. Both of you try to be the bigger person and see someone's, you know, a, just a human being that you can, respect. Like if not be in love with for the rest of your life, you can still respect.
Exactly. Oh, I love
So
that. Yeah.
and that we all are infallible. So you know, whatever the cause of it was, I mean, nobody gets out unscathed. We have to go back to that lesson. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think we did a pretty good job of that. It wasn't perfect, but then we wanted to be parents to our children, and I mean, literally, it's great because she has a key to our place. I have a key to her place. I'm over there all the time. To see, and my son Will splits time 50-50. Of course, my daughter's in Colorado now at school. But yeah, literally, I'm going to see my ex-wife later today, and I think she needs help with moving something, and I have a truck, so which she doesn't have a truck. So yeah, we text all the time, talk every day. So I think the key is kind of is being, don't say anything you can't take back, and and at least until cooler heads prevail, and try to work through your differences as parents. It helps to be parents for sure.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. Tell us about what you're now we're transitioning to your parenting, and you've got two kids, two beautiful kids. One of them is in Texas, the other one in Colorado. Um, Tell us about your relationship with the kids, and if you could think of the biggest lesson that they would say to us if they were here and we were asking them, so what's the biggest lesson you learned from your dad? What do you think that would be?
My dad is an interesting, cynical dude, but with a smirk and a sense of humor. Um, there's a quote that I frequently quote him when I'm talking to him, and I haven't seen him since like January because I don't want to travel there, and you know, I don't, or they didn't want to travel. They want to see me badly, especially my dad, but also my stepmom. But it's just seems so difficult to make it happen because obviously they're high risk, they're older.
Yeah.
Um, but I frequently kind of elbow him about this quote that I remember him saying early on, and he's repeated it in many cases. Let me see if I can get it right now. Spur of the moment. Oh, yeah, here it is. Oh, and this is very just cynical humor, but always expect the worst. And that way you're never disappointed.
Oh!
So I don't know, that's not to be taken too seriously, but and also when you're flat on your ass, there's nowhere to look but up. So those two things, those are his quotes. But that's kind of an inside look at his cynical mind, but also humorous. So so I'm not sure that provides you an answer, but it just gives you an insight as to sort of
Yeah, to your relationship with your
to the
parents.
man. Yeah, but I think what are the takeaways I take from my parents? I mean, we sort of have spoken about it a little bit, but my dad is again back to stick-to-itiveness and hard work. In many ways, as a man, he's not the greatest communicator on a personal level. Like, so whatever you're getting from me in that regard, that comes from my mother, and that ability to listen to other people and really not just hear but listen, and to be there, be present, as we discussed earlier. So
Yeah.
that certainly is the takeaway that I take from my mom, her ability to
Yeah.
just.
It seems like you got a really nice blend between your mom and dad, because it seems to me, as I'm looking at my notes of, when you talked about your mom and your dad, he was the hardworking, focused, control freak, you called him, and, a tinker and observer. And then she was your creative, the teacher, the good listener. So it's like, you've got both sides of the brain going between the two of them, and you're just this nice blend between the two. So you've been able to combine both of them.
I feel like that's a really positive way of looking at it. I feel like that's true on my best days, certainly, or my
Yeah.
better days. I feel like that's true. I mean, I am kind of structured. I think there's structure to songwriting. There's structure to
Oh, yeah.
music, and I think that that side of my brain certainly comes from my father, and
Yeah.
the creative side comes from my mother, and that's really kind of it in a nutshell. So
Let's take one last quick turn, and I'm going to turn this on you for a little bit. George, I want to hear, we've talked about so many parts of your life, and thank you so much for your generosity and just being so
oh,
authentic.
Dr. Betty, it's been a great way to spend a Saturday morning.
Awesome, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
wait a minute, because I'm taking you to a different place now. So wait before you say that, because you may not like it now.
Okay, fire away.
Tell me, so we started with the highlights. Now give me one time in your life when you were really low. And tell us about what the situation was and how did you get yourself back up?
There have been a few of those. Obviously, you don't,
Just pick one.
you don't yeah, you don't stick around long without having a low point in life. But I mean, my first one was being met with the adversity of having to kind of uproot from Southern California to Texas to go live with my father, and felt like I was being kicked out almost of California. And so that was a hard one, and I rebelled a little bit, um, resented my mom for a while, a good, pretty good long while, number of years. I still loved her, and I know that because I still wrote letters to her, and they were they were really loving letters. But I know I felt I had that resentment deep down. Um, so that was one certainly. Another could be pointed in the professional direction. You know, I spent a number of years on Capitol, but then lost my my record deal ultimately, or we just kind of came to an agreement that it wasn't going to be fruitful anymore. But I had gone through, and a large reason for that, in spite of whatever success I had on that label, um, you know, it spanned 2 albums and 5 or 6 Billboard charting songs, and one sort of certainly head and shoulders above the rest with Lipstick Promises. But uh, by the by the end of it, I'd been through 3 record label presidents. They hardly knew who I was. You know,
Oh, wow.
none of the people that were the champions, the aforementioned champions that we talked about, were at the label anymore. They'd all been fired, including the president that signed me. So really, I was kind of the redheaded stepchild, and that was a difficult professional period for sure.
Yeah.
Really tough. I'm not sure how I bounced back from it, other than because shortly after that, I lost my publishing deal too. I think my publisher thought, well, he doesn't have a record deal anymore. He's not going to be profitable to us. He's not worth anything without that. So, but I just kind of kept writing songs, and that's when good things started to happen. And that's what I mean by the blueprint doesn't, you know, life doesn't go according to the blueprint. So, in some ways, I regret the fact that I just kind of rolled up my sleeves and started writing songs, because it sort of took me away from the fast track that my career as an artist was on at the time. And it took me off that fast track for a number of years. Like for 8 or 10 years, I wrote songs for other people. But I also have a wall of awards because of it, like Garth Brooks, George Jones, Sarah Evans, Eli Young Band, blah, blah, blah. Trisha Yearwood, all these people recording my songs. And that's a blessing, and it's an honor.
Huge, yes.
And it's huge. It's a huge part of, it's a huge tip of the cap for them to want one of my songs to be a part of their career, you know? So, Gary Allen, another California country guy, recorded one of my songs. It's been a really great part of my career, but it did take me away from the artist fast track for a number of years until I ultimately decided that I missed it. But that is how I rolled up my sleeves and got out of the low point of losing my record deal and my publishing deals. Just kind of keep on barreling through.
Keep going, yeah. And the only way, I always tell people, the only way is through. It's not ignoring it. It's just go through it and feel it and be present with it and just get through it, because it's not going to go away.
Right, absolutely.
So, I love it.
It's not, go experience it and let it be a part of who you are and where you are at that moment. Don't let it define you either, though.
No.
Like, you don't have to stay in that place.
Exactly.
It's kind of like when somebody's hurting and you say, "Oh, it's okay." Well, no, it's not okay.
No, it
right?
isn't.
And
Exactly.
and it's not, and it's okay that it's not okay. Like, be okay with that.
Yes.
You know, but we're so busy trying to comfort people or put a Band-Aid over the heartache that, you know, well, no, you just got to live in that moment for a second, and then that, you'll climb back out of it.
What a big lesson. That's a big lesson. So, as I look at my extensive notes that I've taken since we started speaking this morning, and
I
this,
love it. I love it. That's awesome.
I'm thinking, okay, so I want you to play a little bit for us, but before you do, if you agree to do that.
I didn't pick up the guitar asking
No,
you.
No. I'm going to ask you to do that anyway. But
I kind of hold it out of habit.
I know. No, I love it.
Talk the whole time. I'm fine with talking the whole time.
What I'd like to do is, if you have some words of wisdom about life, don't put it away, because I'm gonna hold you to it. I do want you to play some for us.
It's just right here. It's no big deal.
Okay, all right. So if you had some things to share, if you wanted to leave your audience here, and you've got quite a few people that are just loving this conversation. I'm hearing that, that's awesome. The country is the most beautiful music. You're awesome. Oh my gosh. The same thing. People are identifying with you. Love the country music. There's hashtag George Ducas. I'm the same way, always have done something, working on something. Thank you for sharing your values. I mean, you're getting a lot of wonderful comments. What would you like to?
I appreciate that.
What would you like to leave them with? What big lesson in life, or what are the last words that you like to leave them with? And then maybe you can leave us with a song after that.
Yeah, that's a grand question. I would say, honestly, the best thing we can be as people, or what I always try to be, and again, we're not going to always succeed, but to be genuine, like just be genuine. And if you really let it out into the universe, like who you are and what you need out of people and what you want to provide for people. That might be what you need, is to be a provider. But let it be known, like what your dreams are, aspirations, fears, whatever it is. Be genuine about it. If we're all genuine, like we could stop the hate pretty quickly, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Like that would just go away. And I don't know, because I have days where I'm like, wow, what are these rioters and people just trashing buildings and setting stuff on fire? And I'm angry at them, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just useless energy. Like, there's not even a mission on that. Like, it's just garbage. But so those people have there's some serious issues rolled up in that. Those kinds of actions, like destroying for no reason, just destroying. So I feel like all of us can benefit from just letting our genuine feelings out and being who we are, and let it be known what our dreams, fears, goals, aspirations, all of those things, letting it be out there, and then set a blueprint down and watch it change, because it's gonna, and then find some mentors and some champions, and try to be one too.
Yeah.
Because you know what? That's a whole nother way to enrich your life, is not just finding a mentor or a champion, but actually become one.
Oh my gosh, there's nothing better. It's so neat. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would love that. And going back to Southern California just real quick, I mean, one of the coolest times in music I had was going out to Southern California and delivering. I went to all the radio stations, but all over the country, and Brazil and these other places too. But like, was going out to Bakersfield and meeting Buck Owens, who had become, a hero of mine.
Big star, yeah.
Based on the music that I went back and discovered when I was really cutting my teeth on songwriting and as a performer. And meeting him and having him really take me in the way he did. He's passed on now, of course, but like, he wanted to taking me in behind closed doors, closing the record company guys out in the hallway. So I'm going to talk to George for a second, because he really, really appreciated what I was doing. There was enough Baker, he could hear it. Like he could hear his influence in my music. And he just talked to me. He's like, man, I know Capitol's not doing it for you. I know they're not. They're not behind this. I'm going to call him. He said he was going to pick up the phone and call him and do what he could to stir up trouble. And of course, Buck also was on Capitol, but it wasn't at that time. And he wound up calling my home a few times, several times. We had phone conversations after that, after my visit with him, and he was just really gracious. And so he became, obviously a mentor and a champion to many, not just me, but to many of us, Dwight included, of course. But anyway, so to become one of those yourself is that's a kind of an ultimate achievement,
It is.
So I don't know. That's a really long-winded answer to your question, but I guess getting back to the short answer, being genuine is it, like, for me, and as an artist too, in what I do. Like if it's not genuine, and you're always borrowing from your influences, but if it's not genuine, it's a load of crap. So.
I agree, and people see right through you. It's so beautiful when you just show up, and it takes a millisecond for people to get if you're real or not. And when you show up, and this morning when we first had a conversation, so just so everybody knows, we had a quick conversation on the phone, and I'm like, my first question was, give me your highlights and your lowlights of your life. Like, whoa, that's a loaded question. I'm like, you know what? Let's get in front. Let me just tell you what I'm about.
Let's get in front.
Me. And then, right? So, and we had just such a lovely conversation before and during. This has been just a really wonderful time. Thank you so much for your time.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
For your generosity. You've been so wonderful. And congratulations on your engagement to Justina. How wonderful. In the future, maybe we'll have both of you on and we could talk about relationship.
That'd be cool. Hey,
that would be really neat. Yeah.
In a post-COVID world, we're coming out there and we're going to have dinner and wine. And
yes, we are. Absolutely.
Justina too. She spent her time out in California. She lived a number of years out there. So she's looking for any excuse to get to Long Beach. Trust me.
Oh, well, here you go. Welcome you with open arms. You're coming.
Yeah.
You're coming.
So, sure. I mean it. And I think, like I said, I told you, I'm planning on recording my next record out there. So.
Yep. So definitely you. Well, this is your home.
I appreciate that. I mean it. We're coming, so just count on it.
I am. Okay, right. How about some music?
Yeah, I'll finish with a song.
All right.
For you. Is that how we're gonna close it out here?
Yeah, let's close it out. Ladies and gentlemen.
All right. I think I'll play the song we've referred to on several occasions, but this song was obviously kind of a big one. Not my first single. The first single was a real California country shuffle, Texas country shuffle, somewhere in between those two lands, called Teardrops, which was also a hit on the radio. But this was a big one, and I'll finish the show with you here. But Dr. Betty, it's been a pleasure. I've loved it.
Likewise, George. It's been just such a pleasure getting to know you. I look forward to staying in touch, and we're going to do some things together. It'll be great.
That's a definite. Yeah. So here's Lipstick Promises for everybody. And thank you guys for listening and watching. Dr. Betty, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
So much. Likewise, thank you for being with us. We look forward to having you next time you're here. We're gonna do another show, and we're gonna have some nice wine and get to know each other. Thank you so much for being with us. You are amazing. Can't wait to
it was an honor. It was an honor and a pleasure. Absolutely.
Likewise. Bye.
I will see you soon.
We'll see you soon. Bye now.
Bye-bye.